What would the Insurrection Act mean for Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen? I want to talk to you about this because it's been floated now. Yesterday, we heard about it, and everybody goes, wait a minute, what? Is this something that he made because he has special access to information about what it takes to not exactly, let's put it this way, foment? Is that a good word that we can use legally that won't get me in trouble? Sure. Foment insurrection, like qualities in people. Maybe he has firsthand knowledge of how to do that to people. I just want to talk about this. He's had a recent threat on social media. He said that he's going to invoke the rarely used federal law amid the escalating protests in Minneapolis over ICE shootings. Folks, I think let's talk about this really. If he was legitimate, he would have used this probably in 2020 when shit was really out of control, before Tim Walz sent in the state National Guard. All that shit. Before he sent in all of those people to break up the riots, that would have been probably the time to invoke the Insurrection Act. Is there an argument for it now? Candlelight vigils aren't nearly as violent as they'd like them to be right now. There are places, like, let's be really honest. Yes, there are peaceful protests out there. Yes, there are people that are just sitting out there holding a Yankee candle or something like that. Is that what they're called? Yankee candles? The shit they sell at Walmart. Because they can't afford anything else. But that's what I'm saying. And there are people doing that. There are also people, as we covered in last episode, tearing lockboxes from ICE agents and federal agents' vehicles, and then breaking into those with like screwdrivers. There's also people just let's call it what it is. They're freaking out. They're chimping out there. They are going ahead and they're letting it loose. They are going out. That's what is happening in certain regions. I'm not saying that it's everywhere. I'm not saying that you go down to Renee Good Square and it's going to be like Tehran right now. I'm not saying that. Will it be 3 or 4 years from now? I can't tell you. I can't tell you that area of Minneapolis wasn't already great. I mean, the houses are decent, you know what I mean, because you can afford private property, but you go down to the gas stations and whatnot, you see that Speedway has been taken over by homeless people and is now labeled People's Way. It's terrifying. Let's talk about the Insurrection Act. Insurrection Act. Let's pronounce it correctly. It's an old law from 1807. It gives the president broad authority to deploy United States military forces, including active duty troops and federalized National Guard units inside the United States. Normally, the Posse Comitatus Act keeps the military out of domestic law enforcement to protect civilian freedoms, but invoking the Insurrection Act creates an exception, allowing troops to help suppress unrest, rebellion, situations where federal laws can't be enforced through regular police or courts. In Minnesota's case, Trump pointed out what he described as professional agitators and insurrectionists attacking ICE agents, whom he described as patriots just doing their job. Some instances, you can argue absolutely they're just deporting people like they're supposed to be. Sometimes they're acting like thugs, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't true. I wish we weren't hiring people with anger issues, but it happens, you know what I mean? It happens, especially when you're trying to do a sweeping move, exactly like he's been trying to do. Let's take a look at this clip from KARE 11 News, why don't we?
Well, the divide between our state and federal government over the largest ICE operation in American history gets wider by the hour. After a second shooting by federal agents last night, followed by clashes with observers and protesters that got unruly. President Trump is threatening to send in the military now via the Insurrection Act. So what does that really mean, and what could history tell us about it? Hey, Ken.
Hey, Jana. If President Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, he would not be the first president to do so. But legal scholars say it's never happened in a situation like the one we're living in. The Insurrection Act gives the president broad power to deploy the military inside the United States to suppress a rebellion or to enforce the law in a state that opposes or obstructs the execution of federal law. It was last invoked in 1992 after riots broke out in Los Angeles following the acquittal of 4 white police officers in the beating death of Rodney King. But in that, and nearly every...
Okay, Rodney King ran. Let's just mention that, and took them on a massive chase. He was incredibly aggressive. It was like, this was not a, like, oh, he was just beaten because he was walking down the street. A lot of people, that's kind of the interpret. It was the 90s, so people didn't really have access to that much information. Sure, they had the video. Literally more than half of the country had not actually seen it. So they just went out and they froke out in the streets, and that's fine. They can do what they'd like.
Every other case, the military was requested by the state. The last time it happened against the wishes of the state was during the 1965 Civil Rights March from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. But the military was there to protect the constitutional rights of citizens. That makes it very different than the situation unfolding in Minnesota, meaning we are in uncharted legal waters.
Indeedly-dee.
The key to all of this is that because the Insurrection Clause hasn't really ever been interpreted by courts of law, that then gives this current president wide latitude to say, this is an insurrection, I want to invoke this act.
If the Insurrection Act is invoked, can the troops coming in do more than they could on the ground, say, in California this summer, where they could just only kind of like protect buildings and things?
That's absolutely right. And they will absolutely be able to go in and put down even nonviolent protests. If ICE is making the argument that those nonviolent protests are impeding their ability to get their job done, then if the Insurrection Clause is enacted, the assumption would be that the military or the militia could come in and make sure that people are not out on the streets protesting at all.
The president has certainly threatened to use it several times already, but he hasn't. Why do you think that is, and do you think that this time might be any different?
So I would suspect that the president is getting advice from military advisors who say if you take that next step, that is another step towards what could be martial law, whether that's in one particular city, one particular state, or the entire United States, and that's not a road a president wants to go down. The reason this might be different is that every single time the administration is ratcheting up how many ICE agents are surrounding the greater Twin Cities area as well as the entire state of Minnesota, the other side, the protesters and those who are watching ICE are ratcheting up their game as well. And
They're down the street, which is nutty. I'm watching local businesses that I not that I grew up in. I'll be real. Like, most of the time it's people that are like fresh into town. You don't really know anybody who works there, and then you go in there maybe once or thrice, twice or thrice, whatever you want to say, and then eventually they show up in a news article that the Don Pablos in Detroit Lakes and Fergus Falls both closed down because apparently family issues or something along those lines, which is like, well, I'm just going to be really honest. If you're hiding, if you're refusing to serve me a burrito just because you say, are not hiring the most whatever, maybe most ethical sources for labor, I am actually fine with ICE going ahead and cracking up your operation. I'm okay with that. There was an Asian massage parlor in Detroit Lakes that at one point. I grew up like mostly in that town, and this Asian parlor, it was known for the happy endings, you know what I mean? Oh, I make you feel real good kind of thing. That's what it was. They got busted up for a prostitution operation. It was really cool. Like, admittedly, it was like hearing about it when it happened. It was awesome. Not a lot happens in that town. I mean, the most interesting thing you can say about Detroit Lakes is that they lynched a guy that apparently was accused of killing somebody. Go Big Red. That's where the fucking high school song. And people will go like, no, that's not what it's referencing. Big Red was the name that he was given. That school song came after it. You can say that it's not directly correlated. You can say whatever it is you want. You can say, yes, that's fine. It's fun. It's a town legend. I'm sorry that you might come from like Sleepy Eye, Minnesota, and they have no cool town stories. I'm sorry your people, your townspeople, were not cool enough to lynch somebody. I'm sorry. And guess what? He wasn't black. He wasn't black. We lynched a white guy. We were ethnically diverse with our lynchings before it was cool. I'm just being honest. Detroit Lakes is based. We lynched a white guy back in those days. You thought when I said we were lynching people, you were like, Detroit Lakes? Really? Northern Minnesota? A town of racists? And then I go, it was a white guy. And then everybody goes, oh, holy shit. They were ahead of the curve. Yes, we were. That's right, we were.
Mean that they're ratcheting up their game by causing violence or trying to harm ICE agents. The protests are just growing larger, and so it's almost this game of chicken. And if that game of chicken goes far enough, I could see that this might be the time the president would really invoke that clause.
Now, if he does invoke it, we already know the courts will be asked to get involved. Today, Attorney General Keith Ellison said he is prepared to challenge it in court. Jana.
Well, that then raises the obvious question, Kent, about the prospects of a case like that. I know you talked about that, and we can talk about the results of that question when we come back.
When we come back. Okay. I mean, if the president does invoke the act here, I think that it could mean, yes, federal troops, they'd arrive in Minneapolis and they'd try to restore order. They'd protect federal operations. Restoring order, I mean, that would, of course, involve breaking up protests, regardless of how peaceful they were. There has been objections already from Governor Walz. I'm thinking that this is going to override normal state control of the National Guard. I don't think that it's going to be like under his command. I think it's going to be put under federal command. I think they're going to be, I think troops, you could see federal troops, they'll be doing law enforcement-like activities, whereas you're going to get pulled over and it will be a federal agent. If you're in the cities anytime soon, don't go. Why is anyone going? I'm curious if anyone is actually planning a trip down to the cities right now. Now that you mention it, oof, man, I should do an episode from the cities. What if I did an episode on the ground from like a protest and just was talking to somebody? That's a great idea. Why don't I do that? You know what? At some point, I'm going to try to get some live shit. I'm going to try to get some more shit with my face on here because it's fun. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy doing the mostly words. It's great, to do stream of consciousness, but I also enjoy doing a live action shit. Why not? Why not? There's apparently calls right now to release indigenous ICE detainees, and those are going unanswered. Very curious.
Some of Minnesota's tribal chairpersons are taking unprecedented action to prevent federal agents from entering reservations. This is happening as community members say ICE was unlawfully detaining 4 Native American men. One has since been released. Jennifer Hoff met with...
They are Indians. Leaders
who say they're providing security and conducting patrols to keep their people safe.
The people.
Community can often provide comfort in crisis, but Wombly Olatapi is also responding to stand with
Wombly, bro, that's one of my favorite native names that I will hear now. Wombly, I love it.
To a growing resistance, he says, against ICE agents in Minneapolis.
That's why we're here. Because they can't do that.
A member of the American Indian movement, Olatapi is from the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota.
Why are you here?
Tribes here providing patrols and security.
It's all a big scare tactic. It's a big bully system right now.
Bully.
And they're trying to scare the people.
I love this guy. He's straight off of what's that movie? It's One Battle After. No, not One Battle After. It's what's the Scorsese movie that he did? It's Old West. Killers of the Flower Moon. This guy's straight out of Killers of the Flower Moon. He could be doing like rich, powerful powwow music with this speech, like big bully system.
And they're trying to
scare our people. God, I love the native. They're doing what they want. I love the native accent. The native accent, growing up near White Earth and whatnot, I've spent a bit of time around these folks. And some of them are my own family, so I've gotten a nice first-hand bit of knowledge with them. They are impressed with very little, like the deer hide drums and shit like that. I understand. It's preserving the culture, keeping it alive and whatnot. And, like, they have these beads that they do, like, earrings out of and stuff. And then you'll get one every now and then who's, like, 50% Indian. Like, they had a white parent. They just don't want to talk about it. But then they're like, the most outspoken. They're like, our people are being genocided. You as an Indian person should be marrying someone else who's Indian because we need to be teaching our kids our language. Our language it's dissolving. The level of attention that's paid to our people. It's just, we are a dying people. And with mixing with white folk, you are making our people disappear. It's the most ridiculous shit. I had this one lady go off one time, and it was the silliest shit about, like, how Kids these days, they're not learning our language because it's being bred out by the white man. It's like, no, because your language is hard to learn, and most of the time you don't make it interesting enough for these kids to want to learn it. I'm sorry. Most of these kids, they're not actually interested in learning another language. That's just a fact. You ever try to get a kid to leave their room? That's just a fact. You know what I mean? They're stubborn. That's how it is. And then they'll go like, oh, it's genocide. It's active genocide. We're not doing boarding schools anymore. Knock it off.
After the community reported agents recently detained 4 homeless Oglala Sioux members near this East Franklin Bridge. And no one...
What's an Oglala Sioux doing in Minnesota?
...knows where they are still, including Minnesota Senator Mary Kunesh, a member of the Native American Caucus.
We're kind of at a standstill with DHS.
The state has 11 federally recognized tribes, and detaining enrolled members is unlawful and violates binding treaties, according to Leech Lake Tribal Chairman Farron Jackson.
Leech Lake? Oh, I love the people of Leech Lake.
Kind of seems really appalling and kind of somewhat backwards if you're going to call any indigenous person from any tribe, an immigrant.
Every person is an immigrant. I'm sorry, and I'm going to say something really controversial. My whatever percent Ojibwe is going to fucking do backflips in me right now. The Native American people are no more native to their land than the whites are. They stumbled upon it. They chased their food from the Asian territories and just so happened to end up in the Americas. And then do you know what happened after that? Are you aware of the cycle of history? The entire cycle of history is tribes coming in contact with larger tribes. And if your tribe is larger and more developed, it's going to subsume and overtake ours. And then we will find a way to ingratiate, we'll find a way to live in your culture, or we won't. And we will leave or we will be genocided. That's how every single country has been established in the history of forever. And as a matter of fact, you could argue that Native Americans were given in regards to like, oh shit, we're going to give you miniature nations within our nation. We took it. We took it all. And now it's all our federal land. But we're going to cut out these slices. Sure, we're going to give you the shittiest land. But you're going to be able to make your own laws there. You're going to be able to do your own shit. You're going to be able to do that. You're going to have some level of self-recognition within your lands. You could argue that they got one of the best deals that any conquered people, and they are a conquered people, ever got. You could argue that the Native Americans, the Indians, as they often call themselves, have gotten a sweeter federal deal than any other conquered peoples. It's just a fact, and I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say about it. They've gotten a sweeter deal in regards to self-governance and self-sovereignty than any other conquered peoples. Most of the time, if your country is conquered, you just have to, you're Russian now, you're USSR now. Fuck your language, fuck that, fuck any of your self-recognition of your culture. You have to learn ours. And admittedly, that's what we did for the longest time. I know about boarding schools, I know about all that shit. We're not doing it now, are we? I understand. We have a history and we have to recognize that history. We have to cope with that history. But to say now, though, to continue with this whole stolen land, it's conquered, it's won, and it was won in the heat of battle. And this whole narrative about how people don't belong here. You don't belong here. You stole it. No, they conquered it. They won it in battle because your culture didn't invent the wheel yet. That's a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact, and guess what? Now we have casinos, and now our country's doing pretty good. Our country's doing all right.
We consider ourselves the first people.
You do. You're allowed to consider yourselves the first people. That's absolutely fine. Doesn't mean you're the current peoples.
Band of Ojibwe chairman even issued this new executive order requiring ICE consult with the band's government before entering or operating on tribal land.
I'm not against checking immigration status, but we have to do it in a more civil and humane manner.
That chaos playing out just blocks away from where people are gathering donations. Police tape surrounding a scene Jane Malafont knows all too well.
I am sick to my stomach of what is happening.
Just trying to deliver food, Malafont says it's not uncommon for unmarked vehicles to follow her into what she says are vulnerable communities, as any kind of law enforcement only adds to the uncertainty.
There was no way to differentiate who was there, who was watching. Nothing was clear at all.
Left to rely on one another, hoping history doesn't repeat itself.
You don't belong anywhere else but here.
No, we sent multiple emails to the Department of Homeland Security asking about the men who are reportedly detained. DHS did not respond to us in particular, but in a statement to the Washington Post has said that it has no record of those tribal members. Senator Kunish reminding Indigenous people right now to be wearing their tribal ID at all times, and to be sure, Janet, that they're also carrying their enrollment papers.
Just the fact that, as that man said, talking about Native Americans having to wear ID, it doesn't make sense in the head.
And usually they wear them in their wallets like we would a driver's license.
Yeah, what you're expected to... What are you talking about? It doesn't make sense. Have your tribal ID. Have your driver's license. Not that fucking hard. I was able to get a driver's license after slacking for so goddamn long. I'm a lazy piece of shit, but it's not that hard. I showed up to the DMV. I had it in less than a week. It's not that hard to get some form of ID.
But in this case now, many of them are wearing them on lanyards across their neck to make
Brilliant.
sure that they are there and visible.
That's good. I remember that's what all the Indian ladies used to do at the clinic, White Earth Health Clinic. I went up there for my health care all the time when I was a kid. They would always wear their little IDs right up on the lanyard. Boom. I can see that you're a member. Then I'm not worried.